I am a man who is 49 years old. I have been married to my wife, Karen, who is 47 years old, for a very long time. 22 years, to tell you exactly. We have 3 children together. Our first child, a daughter named Olivia, is 23 years old. Our second child, a son named Adam, is 20 years old. And our youngest child, another daughter named Sarah, is nearly 18 years old. Not long ago, Karen told me something very upsetting. She said she has been unfaithful to me. She has been seeing another man from her work. This man's name is Sam, and he is 27 years old. I'm using made-up names here for privacy. About a week ago, Karen had a serious talk with me. She explained that she had been seeing Sam for the past 2 years. She felt that now was the right moment to let me know, and to get more serious with him. Our children are all nearly adults now, with Sarah about to turn 18 in just 2 months. Karen thought it was the best time to share this with me. Hearing this news broke my heart. I'm grateful our kids weren't there to witness how upset I got. I cried a lot and couldn't control my emotions. It's good they didn't see me like that. It would have been hard for them. Olivia already left home for a job after finishing college. Adam is at college and Sarah was at a friend's house on that day. This meant Karen and I were alone at home, which I think is why she chose that day to tell me everything. She tried to make me feel better while I cried and asked her not to go, hoping we could try to fix our marriage. However, she said she couldn't stay with me anymore. She felt like staying would be wasting her time in a marriage without love. Everything I knew was flipped upside down that day. My first reaction was to try to convince her to stay, not wanting to believe what she was saying. I hope no one will judge me for this. It was a very tough moment for me. I cried for a long time before I started to accept the situation and calmed down. All through our talk, Karen was trying to comfort me. She kept touching my arm and telling me things would get better, that I'd find someone else. She treated me more like a sad little dog than her husband of 23 years, whom she had been unfaithful to and was now leaving. When I finally managed to stop crying and pull myself together, I got up and asked her to leave our home. I didn't want her there when the kids returned. Karen looked really surprised when I changed from pleading with her to stay to telling her she had to go. I was surprised at myself too, but I said it anyway. If Karen wanted to say something back, she didn't. She just left quietly. She grabbed a few things and put them in a duffel bag she had already packed, which made me realize she had been planning to leave all along. Then, she tried to give me a kind of half-hearted hug, but I couldn't hug her back. I just stood there, not moving. After Karen walked out, I spent the next few hours crying nonstop until Sarah got home. I felt completely broken. My marriage was over, and I didn't know what to do next. The person who meant everything to me, the one I cherished more than my own life, had been betraying me. For an entire 2 years, she was involved with someone else, and when she finally opened up about it, she didn't even seem to acknowledge the severity of her actions. It was as though she didn't see anything wrong in what she had done. In the moments following her confession, she maintained a demeanor that suggested it was all trivial, perhaps attempting to offer comfort out of a sense of guilt or unease, rather than genuine remorse. There I was, left to grapple with my emotions, drowning in tears while she sat beside me, engulfed in silence. My mind was a battleground, with thoughts and memories clashing in an unending chaos. Despite the turmoil, a week has passed since that day, and I find myself in a marginally better place emotionally. I've been holding on, piecing myself back together bit by bit, primarily for the sake of my children. They too are reeling from this revelation, blindsided by the reality of our fractured family. On the day Karen decided to leave, Sarah returned home to find me in a state of disarray, sprawled out on the couch in a fitful sleep. Upon waking, the evidence of my sorrow was unmistakable. My eyes, red and swollen from crying, betrayed the pain I had been trying to conceal. Sarah, perceptive and concerned, pressed me for answers, inquiring repeatedly about her mother's whereabouts and the reason behind my distress. I hesitated to divulge the truth, knowing that voicing the facts would cement them into reality, a reality I was not ready to face. The prospect of breaking down once more in front of my daughter held me back, but the weight of the situation left me with no choice but to share the painful truth eventually. The act of speaking the words aloud made the situation all too real, and I braced myself for the emotional toll it would take on both of us. I finally shared the truth with Sarah, and as expected, I started crying again. It was a bit embarrassing to break down like that, but Sarah was there for me. She really cared and wanted to help. She was just as surprised and upset as I was when I first heard the news. At that time, my mind was all over the place, and I hadn't told anyone else what had happened. But then, Sarah took action. She picked up the phone and called her brother and sister, telling them they needed to come home as soon as possible. She also reached out to her uncle, my brother Eric, to let him know what was going on and that we needed his support. Eric is 45 years old, and he's chosen to stay single. He's always been a reliable and strong person, someone I knew I could depend on in tough times. True to his nature, Eric arrived at our house just a few hours after Sarah had called him, even though he lives quite a distance away. He understood that I needed some time to process the end of my marriage and everything that was happening in my life. So, he decided to stay with us for a while to help out. It's been a week since then, and Eric, along with all my children, are still here with me. We're all trying to get through this difficult time together, trying to understand and accept what's happened. It still feels like we're stuck in a bad dream that we can't wake up from. I never imagined that Karen leaving would affect me and my mental health so much. Having Eric around has been a huge help. I've been feeling really lost since Karen left, struggling to find the strength to even get out of bed in the mornings. Eric's decision to stay with us has been a blessing. His presence has been a guiding light in these dark times. So, I've come to realize that I really do need all the help I can get right now. My children have been incredibly supportive and kind, which I'm very grateful for. I've also been talking to my lawyer to get ready for the divorce that's going to happen. I haven't actually started the divorce process myself because I was expecting Karen to do it first. It seemed odd that she hadn't done it yet. But last night, I finally found out why she hasn't filed for divorce. Although she told me she was leaving, I hadn't heard from her since she walked out. So it was really surprising when she called me out of nowhere, almost a week later. When I picked up the phone, I could tell immediately that something was wrong. Karen sounded really upset, and it was obvious she had been crying. She asked how the kids were, and I told her they were all here with me, including my brother. I tried to sound as neutral as possible because I didn't want her to realize I still cared about her. Despite my efforts to keep my feelings hidden, I couldn't help but care. But I kept my responses short and to the point. Then, unexpectedly, Karen started to cry over the phone. This caught me off guard. I hadn't expected her to break down like that. After all, she was the one who had been unfaithful and then decided to leave. It didn't seem to make sense that she would be the one crying. I found myself unable to ignore her distress, and before I realized it, I had asked Karen if she was okay. That's when she shared with me a shocking update. She told me that on the day she left our home, she had gone to Sam, expecting to move in with him, but Sam had rejected her. He made it clear that he was not looking for a serious relationship and had been merely enjoying the moment with her. He told Karen directly that he was still young and wanted to experience as much as possible before settling down. Karen, despite being an attractive woman for her age, is 50 years old and a mother to 3 children. Sam expressed that this did not align with his vision of an ideal partner for the future. He mentioned wanting children and a long future with whomever he ends up marrying. Given Karen's age, he felt that a future together was not something she could offer him, leading him to conclude that they should not pursue a serious relationship or live together. So Sam was not ready for a committed relationship, and even if he were, he would not choose to have it with Karen. Now, Karen found herself in a crisis, realizing the gravity of her situation. She was devastated, crying on the phone to me for about 15 minutes, acknowledging the huge mistake she had made with the affair. She also mentioned that our children were refusing to communicate with her. They had all blocked her on every platform and had not spoken to her since. She had been staying in a hotel for the past week, uncertain if I would be willing to take her back and too scared to ask. Her call to me was a moment of desperation, not knowing what else to do. Clearly, Karen couldn't stay in a hotel indefinitely. She reached out to me, hoping I would allow her to move back in and give her another chance. I was astonished by her boldness to even suggest such a thing. In a sommer of seconds, any worry or sadness I felt vanished, replaced by a strong sense of anger that, frankly, should have surfaced much sooner. I didn't hesitate to tell her there would be no second chances. She hadn't offered me one, and I felt a sense of justice knowing she was facing the consequences of her actions. I ended the call without waiting for her response and turned off my phone, eager to escape the turmoil and find some rest. The audacity of her request infuriated me. After everything she had done, she thought she could return and I would mend everything as I had always done. Our marriage had seen plenty of challenges, as is typical for any long-term relationship. I had always been the one to try to smooth over disagreements, often without receiving an apology from her. It was always me making the effort to reconcile, even when I wasn't at fault. But I had reached my limit. This betrayal was something I could not and did not want to overlook. It served as the stark realization I needed. My love for Karen had always been greater than hers for me, and far beyond what she deserved. That's where I draw the line. I believe I haven't done anything wrong by asking her to leave and denying her the chance to return. After all, the house is legally mine, as I was the one who purchased it. It belongs to me and she has no right to demand to live there. However, she's been trying to twist the situation, making me feel as if I'm being harsh towards her. When I turned my phone back on this morning, I discovered a bunch of messages from her, sent after our call last night. She was upset and portrayed herself as the victim, accusing me of being selfish and not considering her feelings. It's bewildering to hear such accusations from someone who betrayed our marriage. She's also falsely claiming that I've turned our children against her. I was unaware they had blocked her or refused to communicate until she mentioned it. Therefore, I don't see how I could be responsible for their actions. Honestly, I can't find any reason to blame myself for the current situation. Although anger might be influencing my thoughts, it seems absurd that she's calling me selfish for not wanting to salvage our marriage after her affair, especially considering she only reached out to me after being rejected by the person she left us for. I strongly feel I'm not in the wrong here, but I also want to ensure I'm not acting out of spite or being unnecessarily harsh. So I'm seeking your opinions, Reddit users, on refusing to let my wife return after her infidelity. Update. Hey everyone. First off, I want to express my deep gratitude to all of you who took the time to reply to my initial post. Right. But after hearing from all of you and giving it a lot of thought, I've realized how much Karen's actions have been manipulating me. She made me doubt my own feelings and decisions about not letting her back into my home and life. I was actually close to second-guessing myself and might have given in if I hadn't reached out for advice here. To everyone who took the time to respond, I can't thank you enough. Your support has been invaluable. It's helped me see the situation for what it truly is and prevented me from falling back into a cycle of unhappiness and distrust. If I had chosen to forgive Karen and try again, I'm certain it would have only led to more pain and regret. Now, I feel much more grounded in my decision. Karen doesn't deserve another chance, not after everything that's happened. Since my last post, Karen has been relentless. She sent numerous texts, attempting to convince me to reconsider, using guilt and manipulation as her main strategies. She keeps apologizing, claiming she realizes the enormity of her mistake in having an affair and promising to do everything in her power to make amends. However, the clarity I've gained from this experience, bolstered by the perspectives shared by this community, has shown me the truth. I'm moving forward, free from the doubt that Karen's manipulation had cast over me. Karen's belief that there's a chance for us to reconcile puzzles me, especially considering the gravity of her actions. This isn't a minor disagreement that can be easily resolved. Her affair has caused deep wounds, and it seems she hasn't fully grasped the extent of the damage she's inflicted. I'm skeptical she'll ever truly understand the pain she's caused. Thankfully, I'm starting to feel better, which has allowed me to encourage Olivia and Adam to return to their regular routines. Sarah is still with me, offering her support, which I find comforting. I've made it clear to her, though, that she shouldn't feel obligated to stay by my side. I want her to enjoy her life, spend time with friends, and pursue happiness, despite the challenging circumstances we're facing. It's important to me that this difficult period doesn't prevent her from living her life to the fullest. She's planning to leave for college in the fall, and I'm eager to make the most of the time we have together before then. My brother is still staying with us, and his presence has been a tremendous help. While I've talked a lot about how Karen's departure has affected me emotionally, it's also changed the practical aspects of our daily life. There are small, everyday reminders of her absence, which might seem trivial, but consistently bring to mind the reality of our situation. With Karen no longer around, there's been a noticeable gap in handling household chores, particularly because she was the one who usually took care of the laundry and cooking, tasks she claimed to enjoy. The rest of us focused on keeping the house tidy, managing the trash, and washing the dishes. Now, with Karen gone, Eric and I have had to step up to fill these roles, especially since Sarah has her own commitments, and I didn't want her to sacrifice her activities just to help around the house. Eric has truly been a blessing since he arrived. Even though he's not the type to wear his emotions on his sleeve, his support has been invaluable. He's allowed me to feel a sense of relief and release that I desperately needed during this tumultuous time. I'm aware that Eric can't stay with us indefinitely, but his presence right now is something I'm incredibly grateful for. On the legal front, my lawyer and I have initiated the divorce proceedings. We filed the petition yesterday, prompted by the realization that Karen, now seemingly without options, had abandoned any intention of filing herself, likely hoping for reconciliation. She'll be officially notified of the divorce in the next few days, marking the start of what I anticipate to be a challenging process. The thought alone is overwhelming, and I can only imagine the emotional toll it will take as we proceed. Divorce was never a scenario I envisioned for myself, but it's the reality I'm faced with now. It's a horrible feeling, but there's just nothing else I can do anymore. At least I'll know that I did my very best to keep the marriage intact. And whatever is happening right now isn't my fault, it's hers. So I don't need to feel like crap about what happened. I'm also grateful that my kids are all grown up now, because I don't think I could have handled a custody battle alongside the divorce now. Update 2. Karen received the divorce papers today, and if the messages she's been sending are any indication, she didn't handle the news well. I haven't had the heart to block her number yet, as finding the mental resolve to completely sever ties has been difficult for me. However, I'm getting closer to making that decision. The messages she sent were harsh and filled with anger. She accused me of seeking revenge and blamed me for ruining her life, arguing that her affair was merely an attempt to find some excitement away from what she perceived as a dull and routine existence. She also made personal remarks about my appearance, pointing out that I'm nearing 50 and showing signs of aging, like my receding hairline, which to me is just a natural part of getting older. I've accepted my age and the physical changes that come with it. I may not frequent the gym as I used to, but I've maintained a relatively healthy lifestyle, especially considering my responsibilities as a father to nearly adult children. I believe it's normal and expected to look my age, and I don't see it as a negative reflection on my character or attractiveness. But if she wants me to look the same way as I did back when we got married in our early 20s, and that's going to be an issue. I don't think it's humanly possible to look the same age unless you're a celebrity and can afford to spend all your time and money on maintaining your looks throughout the years. It's clear that Karen sees Sam as more physically appealing than me, but that's exactly where the essence of marital fidelity and commitment is supposed to come into play. If she lacked the self-restraint to resist throwing herself at the first younger man who caught her eye, that failure is on her, not me. It's disappointing, to say the least, that she's attempting to deflect her own culpability onto me, suggesting that her infidelity was somehow justified by my shortcomings, and that it was my responsibility to change. This situation has been a harsh awakening for me. It's only now that I'm beginning to recognize all the warning signs I overlooked for over 2 decades, blinded by my love for Karen. But with the painful transition from wife to soon-to-be ex-wife, I'm finally seeing her true character. Reflecting on this, I can't help but feel foolish for not having seen it sooner. Despite everything, there's a part of me that still harbors feelings for Karen, a fact I find both humiliating and difficult to accept. It's this lingering affection that has so far prevented me from taking the final step to block her and sever all ties. Yet, I'm earnestly hoping to muster the courage to do so soon, as enduring her continuous blame and irrational behavior is becoming unbearable. I'm seeking the strength to move forward and leave this turmoil behind. The behavior Karen has shown throughout this ordeal is hard to categorize. I hesitate to label it as merely evil because it feels more complex than that. It's almost comically cruel in its nature. The latest development, however, adds a layer of irony to the situation that, while troubling, thankfully doesn't impact me directly. Olivia informed me a few hours ago about a new twist in the saga. Karen is now embroiled in an online feud with Sam. This came to light after Karen aired out her grievances in a public rant, accusing Sam of leading her on for 2 years only to reject her because he didn't see a future together. Reflecting on her actions, it seems remarkably short-sighted of her to have upended her life without first ensuring that Sam was on the same page regarding their relationship. Even from a standpoint of basic common sense, let alone fidelity, she should have sought clarity on his intentions before diving into this liaison. The drama escalated when several of her female co-workers responded to her post, revealing that they too had been involved with Sam. It appears he was far from exclusive, casting a shadow over any pretense of genuine affection he might have shown Karen. Witnessing these events unfold, I find myself reconsidering my stance on karma. The poetic justice of Karen's situation is undeniable, and it's hard not to see it as a direct consequence of her actions. In light of these revelations, both Olivia and I have decided to block Karen, distancing ourselves from the ongoing drama and toxicity. This decision, though difficult, marks an important step in moving forward and sparing ourselves from further pain and chaos. Karen's current predicament came to light through a cousin who's still connected with her on social media, as we haven't yet made our separation public to the extended family. However, Karen's online outburst seems to have inadvertently spread the news for us. I'm planning to inform my own family about the situation soon, but in the meantime, I'm admittedly finding a bit of guilty pleasure in observing the turmoil Karen has found herself in. The situation with Sam is astonishing. Despite my initial feelings of animosity towards him for his involvement with Karen, the current turn of events has shifted my perspective somewhat humorously. The idea of acknowledging his Achievements in the realm of office romance is a thought that crosses my mind, albeit in jest. This entire episode serves as a stark reminder of the consequences that come with deceit and the pursuit of fleeting pleasures at the expense of real, meaningful connections. As for me, I'm eagerly looking forward to finalizing the divorce and moving past this chapter of my life. Update 4. It's been over a month since I first shared my story, and we're now navigating the settlement phase of the divorce. My feelings towards Karen have drastically changed. Where there was once love, now there's indifference. During our meetings, she occasionally tries to engage with me, offering smiles and attempting conversation, but I make it a point to maintain my distance. The emotional detachment I've achieved is profound, underscoring the transformative journey I've undergone since this ordeal began. From what I've heard, she's now staying with a friend because she lost her job recently. I believe I won't have to pay her any money after we split up, mainly because she openly admitted to cheating on me on her Facebook page. She thought Sam would eventually want a serious relationship with her, but that didn't happen. I don't even have to show proof that she was unfaithful. She's done that for me by sharing everything online. My children and I are not talking to her at the moment. We're acting as if she doesn't exist. I understand this might not be the healthiest way to deal with things, but we'll consider dealing with our feelings about it all after some more time has passed. The situation is still too new and painful to talk about right now. However, I'm feeling a lot better than I did when I first shared my story here, and I'm confident things will continue to improve as time goes on.